this endeavor. It's not just purely they decided to go and check it out. Is that right?
So it's interesting. There's a good joke, two Jews, three opinions.
Yeah.
So, of course, that's one opinion. And you're right. It does say that the Hebrew is Vayidaber Adonai el Moshe lemor shlach lecha anashim, meaning Lord spoke to Moses saying, send out men to scout the land of Canaan. So there's a midrash, and midrash is 2,500-year-old commentary that the rabbis who wrote the Talmud and the Oral Torah gave us. And my understanding of midrash as a liberal Jew is that we're writing midrash right now, right? Midrash is not just written then, it's written also now, because when we study Torah, you're coming at it differently, I'm coming at it differently, Rebecca, all of us are coming at it differently. So yes, the text does say that. However, there's a midrash that says that what actually happened was that God didn't say that the people came to Moses and said, we are distrustful of you and of the other leaders, and we don't think we can do this, so we want to understand that we can, and let us go forth to do that. Does that make sense? Okay, so what we're going to do is I have 4 verses that we're going to delve deeply into. And so the first of the 4 verses is verse 3. And in the Eitz Chaim, it says in the English, so Moses, by the Lord's command, sent them out from the wilderness of Paran, all the men being leaders of the Israelites. All right, so I'm going to call on people. I usually do. I don't like to do this alone. So Merle, when you hear, so Moses, by the Lord's command, sent them out of the wilderness of Paran, all men being leaders of the Israelites, what does that mean to you?
That he took leaders that were with him and sent them out to the land to see what it was all about. See what was there.
Right. Good. Why not just take everybody? Why did he have to choose leaders? Keep going, Merle.
I think it would have been a crowd and too many opinions.
Right. And so what's interesting about this is, so then we go from that to verse 4, and it says all of the names of the people that were chosen by way of their, by the way of father to son. And the interesting thing about this verse to me, verse 3, is that a leader, you would assume, would not have to scout out anything. They would actually understand, maybe by way of prophecy and maybe just by being chosen as leaders beforehand, that they were going to come into a land that they could overcome and conquer, not that they would be distrustful. So I think that this is very important to set us up because it first says in the wilderness. So the wilderness means they had no idea really where they were, but they knew that they were in a vast, expansive area, and they were afraid and distrustful. And then they needed leaders to show them that there was trust, that they could actually make something of their lives in this new land of Eretz Canaan. So if you turn the page and go to verse 20.
Know where you are.
So I'm again in Eitz Chaim, verse 20. So after naming these leaders, they sent 12, and the men they sent were Reuben from the tribe of Zachor, Simeon, Shaphat son of Hori, Judah, and then Khalid son of Jephunneh, From the tribe of Yisachar, Egal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun. So right away, pick out Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and Joshua, son of, from Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun, right? Because those two are going to be the leaders, and they are going to be the most important of the 12. They are going to actually lead us into the rest of the Torah portion. So who has an Eitz Chaim Humash here that can read the rest of the names of the tribes? Who has one? Let's see. Natalie, do you have an Eitz Chaim? You're on mute. Sorry. Still on mute, Natalie. Okay, I'm gonna try to. We have to go forward. Cindy, do you have an Eitz Chaim?
I have the Women's Torah commentary.
Okay, so can you go? You know, that's actually really good. Can you read us the names? So we already did Joshua. Can you go from the rest
Starting at verse 4?
Mm-hmm.
And these were their names. From the tribe of Reuben, Shammua, son of Zakur. From the tribe of Simeon, Saphat, son of Hori. From the tribe of Judah, Caleb, son of Jephunneh. I got a good one. From the tribe of Issachar, Egal, son of Joseph. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hosea, son of Nun. From the tribe of Benjamin, Palti, son of Raphu. From the tribe of Zebulun, Gadiel, son of Sodi. From the tribe of Joseph, namely the tribe of Manasseh, Gadi, son of Susi. From the tribe of Dan, Amiel, son of Gamali. From the tribe of Asher, Sethur, son of Michael. From the tribe of Naphtali, Nabi, son of Rosi.
Ruspi, yes, very good. Okay, so and then there's one more.
From the tribe of Gad, Giel, son of Machi.
Okay, great. So after naming them, we're going to pick out Caleb and Joshua, as I said. So they go out, and all of them go out into the new land. And what they immediately understand is that the land is flowing with milk and honey, and that the land is full of grace, and that the land has a lot of promise. But then they come back, and 10 of them say to Moses that they could not overtake the surrounding different communities, the Amalekites, the Canaanites, Jebusites, Hittites. They couldn't overtake them. Now, has anybody here learned where we first understand the Amalekites? Amalek? Rebecca? Herman, do you know where we first encountered the Amalekites?
Wasn't that when we were leaving Egypt and he attacked us from the rear?
Yes. So that's amazing. You're amazing. So the Amalekites first came when the Jews were leaving Egypt. They attacked us from the rear, and they went after women and children first because they were considered by the text to be the most vulnerable among the community. So the challenge that we want to set up, is, so this is many months, maybe even years after they had already left Egypt. They had understood and defeated the Amalekites. So why then would they go back and 10 of them say, we can't overtake them? They had already overtaken them. Anybody understand or want to comment on that one? David, you're on mute.
They vision them, the 10 leaders vision them as being giants, looked at the Hebrews like they were ants, and they had a negative notwithstanding the land of milk and honey and the other fruits and other things, how prosperous it could be, they gave a negative report back to Moses, whereas Joshua and Caleb were the only ones who stood up, were not influenced by peer pressure, and gave a positive notation. And that was such a that was the impetus, I believe, the reports of the spies to send the Jews for wandering for 40 years or 39 years, actually, I think it was.
Yes, that's amazing, David. You sound like a real Talmud Chacham. You are like a real Torah scholar. I really love this.
Well, I fumble around, and certain things I remember, and most things I don't. But for some reason, this stuck with me.
You know what? I've been doing this for 15 years, and I still fumble, and we all fumble all the time, and it just shows that we're flawed. It doesn't, and Jews are flawed people, and we show the world our flaws, and that's what makes us a light unto nations, in my opinion. So I want to go to present day and make a real comparison here. So I live in a very small apartment complex, and I have a neighbor who is a victim of domestic violence right now by her spouse, and she really has exhibited a lot of strength. And as a chaplain, I work with victims of domestic violence a lot. And I think everybody knows here that we can never blame the victim, but what we want people to do in the case of the victim, mainly the woman in the relationship, is we want them to be strong enough to be able to leave, and to be strong enough to be able to make lives for themselves. And we know that that's not always the case. And we know that most often, even though they say, okay, I'm done with him, I'm done with this person, I've washed my hands with them, I'm not going to put up with this anymore, we know that the pattern of domestic violence victims is they mostly always go back to what is known to them. And so in the same way here, our desert Jews, our ancestors, went back to what was known to them. They escaped. They really, really came out, and they beat Pharaoh. They beat the Egyptians. And yet their mentality was always one of, but can I really do this? Wasn't the land better in Egypt? Why are you taking us out of here? Everything was better there. Why don't we just go back? At least we'll know where we have graves if we die there. So does that make sense? Okay, somebody did have a question. Let's see something here. David Kaz and everybody. Let's see something here. Okay, so okay, you're not talking to me. Okay. Anybody have questions?
Hello.
Yeah, Herman. And then Cindy. One second. Eric, one second, please. I'm gonna go to three of you, and then we'll start with Herman.
I don't hear good.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Eric, I'm gonna go to three. I'm gonna go to you in just 1 second. I want to start with Herman. Herman.
Looking at it from a completely different point of view. These people never had to do any fighting whatsoever. The Egyptians were completely in charge. It was the Egyptians who went to war and did the conquering. These people didn't know anything about fighting. Also, in my mind, the people in the land were not giants in size amongst men, but they were giants in the amount of people that were there. I mean, the only giant that I know of in the Torah was later on, and he was killed by David. So I'm not looking at size. I'm looking at the amount of people that were there. So the spies who went out never had to do any fighting. They didn't know what fighting was all about. And quite honestly, they had lost their faith in God. I think that's the whole secret. The two men, Caleb and Joshua, had faith in God, that God would lead, that God would take care. These people didn't.
Right. So to answer you, what I think, and I want to relay it back to you, is that they weren't. They were looking at size of populations around them, and we were very small. I mean, and the interesting thing about what you're saying, Herman, is completely correct. Jews have always been small in number, and we've always been God wrestlers. And so when I look at what you just said, it's really interesting to me because even given our size, we've been always able to overcome. And what we needed and what we even really need today, speaking in terms of where we are in the landscape of Israel and Iran and what's going on, which is just really amazing and awful at the same time. There's that duality of balance. What we need is we need to understand that unity brings us together, and that we're stronger together than we are, and we're weaker apart. Is that what you're saying?
Pretty close.
Okay, Cindy, and then Eric.
Okay, I hope this won't be controversial, but
Please.
What makes me uncomfortable with this portion is the Jews left 450 years earlier voluntarily because of famine. Other people inhabited the land, worked the land. It was flourishing from the grapes and the figs and the pomegranates. And God says, okay, just throw them out and you could take over the land. And, you know, I have empathy for the people that were living there peacefully.
So it's a great, so what you said is a great thing. Great comment. I have empathy for them too. And I've said this before in other audiences, which is, and I want to say this, but then I want to go to Eric because there's a lot more to cover in the short time we have. I think that, Cindy, one of the things that I can say to you is I have right now such empathy and compassion for the Iranians and the Palestinians in and around Gaza that are living peacefully. And we have to, because if we don't have that empathy and compassion, the Torah actually says that when Pharaoh took the Jews out, when most of the Jews out of Egypt and he drowned the Egyptians, angels on high were dancing. And God said through Moses, why are you dancing? My creations are destroyed. They might have been really evil and abusive, but they didn't start out that way. They became that. And similarly to a victim of domestic violence, the man in the picture, if the man is the abuser, didn't start out that way. He was a child. Something happened to make that person the abuser. And so I think it's going to be very hard for us going forward to have empathy, but we need to distinguish the act and the person. Does that make sense?
But the people living there at this point didn't do anything against the Jews.
So they did. So they had before, actually. The people living there had before took the Jews out to war, mainly the Amalekites. They had attacked. Maybe they were different now than they were then. And one correction is they didn't leave Egypt 450 years ago. They were enslaved for 450 years. They left Egypt actually more recently. Eric, you're on mute, sir.
Hello.
I'm
an advocate for autism, and because in the autistic community, you may say something to an autistic, and he will download it differently than the neurotypical, and maybe something altered the programming of the autistic person to make him feel that he's been attacked by downloading certain things. Capiche? You understand what I mean?
I do. I want you to know something, Eric. I also am somebody who is neurodiverse, and I came to Torah by way of having learning challenges as a child. And
welcome to the club.
Thank you. So I celebrate all of us that are not on that typical path. I want to go to the last two verses.
I'm sorry, but I thank you very much for that, because I would like the autistic population, including me, to be treated like mensches, not like idiots.
I want to say something.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, Natalie.
Well, I think Cindy made a really good point. And if we are looking at this Torah and we are analyzing it without making it pretty and nice, what she said, perhaps what this Torah is telling you is this is how man is. This is what we do. One group fights another group. What has always impressed me is the beginning of first story in the Torah is that this Torah is telling you that Cain kills his brother. That is the first story. To me, that is so impressive. What it's saying is, watch out. This is what man does. This is what one man does to another. If a brother kills a brother, you watch out and see what's going to happen. And Cindy makes a really good point. We think we're going with God. It sounds very pretty in this Torah. But what we did was we went in and conquered another place. And those people that were there were astounded by it all. And so you can relate it to what's going on today, this terrible thing that's happening in Israel now. I mean, we can't read this and pretend it's a fairy tale. The reason I am so impressed with this book is it tells you who a man really is. And it is a lesson. And so I don't think we should just fluff over this, because I have thought about this also. Not that I feel so sorry for the others, but what I see is that there is this instinct, there is this thing in human beings that we do conquer others, and we don't like it when we're on the wrong side. But this is what this Torah is teaching. It's teaching it to me. I don't know if anybody else agrees with Cindy and I. I'd like to hear what they say.
So there's two hands here. I want to say Natalie, you're completely correct. I also come at this the same way you and Cindy do, and I hope that a lot of others do, which is that Torah has to be relevant for our lives today. And right. As a progressive and liberal Jew, if something is not relevant by way of the text, we have to figure out a way to make it relevant. We have to mold it so that it becomes relevant. Right. Howard and then Rebecca.
I just wanted to say something about the concept that was brought up of having empathy for the people that are trying to kill us. Is that something that we find in the Torah, or is that something that we molded?
So that's a great question. We don't have empathy. And here I'm going to give you my opinion. Again, I'm not on the bima. So you're going to hear something from me that you might disagree with. And I'm going to quote sources now when I say this. Howard, we don't have to have empathy, and we should not have empathy for those that are trying to kill us. There is a law in the Torah and a law in the Talmud that says, that talks about a rodef. And a rodef means a pursuer. And it says in the Talmud, and I will send the sources for this after the class, that when somebody rises to kill you offensively, you kill them first in self-defense. So Jews we should never have empathy for those trying to kill us. And more to the point, when somebody says they want to harm you, you believe them and you trust them. And so you protect yourself. We have to have empathy, I believe, for the innocents involved in all of these wars, because not everybody is a leader and not everybody is out to hurt us and others. They are just victims within the larger circle, and the smaller circle is the leadership, the people that are really doing the harm. Does that make sense?
I'm not so sure it does, because the leaders are responsive to the people they're leading to some extent, greater or lesser in many cases, and I'm not so sure they're so innocent. If they're, uh, I'm very, one thing, I mean, this is completely off the wall, but if you go on the internet, there's a series of hundreds and hundreds of videos that were made called the Ask Project, where this Canadian Israeli guy interviews people on the West Bank and in Israel, either in Hebrew or in Arabic or English. And it seems, I don't know, unless he's doing a lot of selective editing, it seems like about 90% of the people that he interviews are totally committed to the Palestinianism way of thinking, that the Jews are thieves and they have to go, and eventually they will go, and I don't care where they go.
Right. So let me just say this, and then I want to go to Rebecca, as I want to bring in something that I think is really relevant here. I also struggle with where you're with what you're saying. With I agree with what you're saying, Howard, and I struggle with it too. Which is what I'm looking for in this. And since 10:7 is, where are the moderates? Where are the people that are not in the extremes? Why can't they stick out and stick their necks out to say not everybody agrees with anti-Semitism and Jew hatred? And I think it really goes back to, again, this Torah portion, which is if you are so enslaved to one mentality, you can't exit it easily. And these people that are fed this Jew hatred and these lies and libels have been fed it since birth. And so it's really, really important to understand, one, that we have to trust people when they say they want to harm us, and two, that I don't believe that we can ever overcome anti-Semitism or evil. I believe we have to be educated about it. And anybody that talks about the fight against anti-Semitism, I believe, is wrong, because we can't fight it. We can understand and educate ourselves to know that through Jewish joy, through learning Torah, we can become exactly what we're meant to be, which is more educated and knowledgeable Jews. I want to go to Rebecca, please.
I just want to point out that I agree we need to have empathy. At the same time, I want to note that the Canaanites are descendants from Ham, the son of Noah, and the Amalekites are descendant from Esau, son of Isaac. So we're all one people.
We're all one people.
So it's not like we're fighting something that's not known. We're all the same people. So it's not like we're going into a land that wasn't ours and trying to conquer it.
Completely true.
We are the descendants of Ham and Esau.
Completely true. So I want to recommend a book to everybody that I really believe everybody should go out and purchase. This is called Torah Travels. It's a psycho-spiritual journey through the weekly Torah portion. And the author is Rabbi Mel Gottlieb. And Rabbi Mel Gottlieb is a fantastic rabbi who runs the Academy for Jewish Religion, California. I was ordained a chaplain there. Cantor Peacock, Rabbi Nanis, he was our dean of the rabbinical school. And he wrote a book on the psychology of Torah and this midrash. And the line that I actually want to quote to you regarding this Torah portion is from a commentator called the Kli Yakar, medieval commentator. And it says, interestingly, the Kli Yakar says they failed. And when they say it's they, the they is they failed the 10 to report what was good about the land, because there were no women among the scouts to offer a contrary hopeful opinion. Now, any woman here, please raise your hand if you know where I'm going to go next, because I believe that this might be the most important teaching within this Torah portion. And it's not even in it, it's Midrash. Natalie, Rebecca, Merle, anybody? Barbara, what do you think? Why? You're muted. There you go.
Yeah. I think that all the women who believe in women's rights would be on the side that you're talking about, and that people are men and women. And at that time, and for a long time after in Orthodoxy, the woman was supposed to support the man, but not have an opinion. And even if you look at Esther and some of the others, they managed to have their own say, but they did not actually say anything. They did it through the man. So that would be an effort to be more inclusive.
Right. Okay, that's really good. So before I'm going to do one more verse and then we're going to do Kaddish. And I just want to say a couple other things. This was so meaningful to me. I hope this was meaningful to all of you. I believe women are going to bring the Messiah. And actually, I'm quoting from the Talmud again to say that when the Messiah comes, it's going to be for women, because Miriam actually was the heroine of the Passover story, not Moses. Did anybody else understand? Does anybody else resonate with that here? That Miriam actually was the heroine?
I don't know.
So the reason she was is because she actually got Moses to where he was. She told her parents not to divorce and separate. Because of that, Moses was born. She watched him. She fed him the milk within the palace with her mother. And this is really important to understand for the Parsha. So the last verse is on chapter 15 of this Torah portion, verse 14, and it says here, and when throughout the ages a stranger who has taken up residence with you, or one who lives among you, would present a gift of a pleasing odor to the Lord, as you do, so shall it be done by the rest of the congregation. There shall be one law for you and for the resident stranger. It shall be a law for all time throughout the ages. You and the resident stranger, shall be alike before the Lord. The same ritual shall apply, and the rules shall apply to you and to the stranger who resides among you. So I want to just say that this actually speaks to everything that the women were saying here in this class today, which is we have to have empathy for the other. We might as Jews have different laws than the rest of society around us, but the law of being good people, the law of doing good, which is what I believe the Torah is really all about, which is it's supposed to make us more present, more aware, and more good in the world. That is not just for us. It is for everybody, right? It's for anybody that wants to do this. So does anybody have a question about this last verse before we say Kaddish? Anybody? Let's see. Did I say anything? All right. Anybody have any questions at all before we end? Thank you. Thank you so much. So we're going to say Kaddish, and I want to read the names. And for Kaddish today, I want us to keep in mind all of the victims since Iran's attack and since Israel first responded, and all of our fallen. We've had too many fallen over the last 2 years. And I hope and pray for a day that there is less war and more peace. And I know that we all really do. So I'm going to read the names here. We're going to start with those that have passed away during the past month. Francis Chapman, Sylvia Cooper, Betty Fields, Cy Fields, James Krug, and Stephanie Anover. And then your sites for the past week, I'll go through them. Charlotte Adler, Shimon Aftulion, Maya Alberstone, Valentine Amid, Harold Band, Mildred Barash, Misha Bellick, Jack Berman, Sarah Collins Blakeman, Saul Blunder, Norman Branzel, Naomi Brennan, Olga Brower, Leonard Cohen, Stuart Morton Cowan, Frederick Creamer, Rochelle Dave, Max Demoff, Rebecca Wilhelmina Darrow, David Duell, Mina Ehrenberg, Eileen Fine, Frederick Fanton, Jack Figlin, Miles Quinton Feiderman, Ralph Formal, Aaron Friedman, Ruth Friedman, Rose Frudenthal, Jay Gagerman, Marvin Gans, Leo Gold, Dora Goldberg, Dorothy Goldberg, George Goldfine, Joe Goldman, Donna Ray Goldstein, Evelyn Greenbaum, Susie Greenberg, Marcia Jacobs, Robert Jaffe, Michelle Goldman Kane, Lucille Kaplan, Madeline Kaplan, Margaret Katz, Margot Katz, Sydney Katz, Joseph Kelrick, Minnie Kant, Robert Klein, Margaret Klein, Stephen Klein, Max Kleiman, Isidore Kornhauser, Jody Kauster, Sylvia Kreven, Albert Cooperstock, Jeanette Lampert, Sam Levin, Lester Levy, Robert Littman, Ruth Litt, Saul Litt, Bess Lustig, Albert Markinson, Susan Martin, Ronald Meltzer, Hadley Miller, Stanley Mosick, Effie Munjak, Eric Paul Nass, Arnold Nadelson, Max Newman, Ann Nicknoll, Victor Noodleman, Eugene Potnick, Albert Pelkenny, Gertrude Pollock, Oscar Weiss, Richard Ritter, Stanley Robbins, Sylvia Rutsky, Sally Rose, Ernest Roderman, Madeline Rosen, Milton Rosenfeld, Julie Silverman, Sasky, Martin Schatz, Paul Schneider, Gladys Schwartz, Sylvia, Charlotte Schwarzenberger, Herbert Shapiro, Dahlia Schneider, Milton Sidley, Karen Silverman, Elizabeth Saicano, Wanda Slackaroop, Beverly Stern, Bobby Stern, Adeline Tarko, Benjamin Tarshish, Murray Taylor, Saul, Tivleby, Sarti, Silverman Unger, Alvin Vogel, Eileen Wallace, Frank Warshawski, Frank Webb, Seymour Wegg, Dora Weinstein, Marna Weinstein, Rita Weiss, Michael Zelikson, and Sam Zalkowitz. And now let us say the mourners Kaddish together. Yid Kadal, B'Yid Kadash, Shemei Rabbah. B'Yalmad Yivrach Yerutei, V'Yamlich Malchutei, B'Chayechon, Uv Yomechon, Uv Chayed Bet Yisrael, Ba'agalah, Ubizman Kariv, Yimru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah, Mevorach, Le'olam, Ol Yomei Omaya, Yit Barak, V'Yishtabach, V'Yit Pa'ar, V'Yit Raman, V'Yit Naseh, V'Yit Hadar, V'Yit Halei, V'Yit Halal, Shmei Kudusha B'Rechu, Le'ela Min Kal Birchata, V'Shirata, Tushbachata, V'Nechamata, Amiram, Ba'alma, V'Yimru Amen. Yehei Shalom Rabba Min Shamaya, B'Chaim, Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Yimru Amen. Osei Shalom Ben Ramav, Huya Asei Shalom, Aleinu, V'Al Kol Yisrael, V'Yimru Amen. And thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for this. And Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Jonah. I feel energized. I was a little bit tired coming into this, and I feel energized. Thank you so very, very much for
Thank you.
the aspect
You're
that you brought to that parsha.
You're welcome. So nice to meet you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Earl, finally. So nice to meet everybody here. And Eric as well. And Howard, thank you. Anna, thank you so much.
Thank you all. Shabbat Shalom.